Hi, everybody. This is Tom, and this is a special segment from Rich Life. It's no secret that I like to read books. I like to read books because that gives me the information I need to create the kind of life that I want to have. I also like to hang around good people. Number one, it's fun to hang around good folks. It's motivating and you learn a lot. But sometimes the people I really like to hang around are experts. It's very nice to have an expert in your orbit because somebody that's the absolute best at what they do can really help you move forward with their area of expertise. So I'm super excited today because what I've got somebody that wraps all of that together. So I've got with me Tom Wheelwright, who first and foremost has been a friend for many years, and I'm honored to be one of his friends. But Tom is probably one of the top tax experts in the world. He's written a book called Tax Free Wealth, which has been a tax Bible for me for many, many years. And the reason we're talking to him today is because he has a new book that just released 2 days ago. It's called The Win-Win Wealth Strategy, 7 investments that the government will pay you to make. So that's something that if you want to continue with your financial plan, you want to continue to build your wealth, you've got to know about this stuff. So I want to introduce you to Tom and introduce you to his book. So Tom, welcome to the show, and please give us a little bit of background on yourself.
Oh, thank you, Tom. It is a great privilege to be with you. It's a great honor to be called your friend. That's a great honor for me. So I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah. As a good Mormon boy, I spent 2 years in France learning how to get rejected in French, and which really I think was a great start to my road as an entrepreneur. Then I spent a couple of years at the University of Utah to do my undergraduate degree, another couple of years at the University of Texas for my master's degree in tax. And then I spent 7 years with Ernst & Young, including 3 years in their national tax office back when Ronald Reagan was president. I spent 4 years as the in-house tax advisor for a Fortune 1000 company, 14 years as an adjunct professor in the Masters of Tax program at Arizona State University. 25 years buying, building, selling CPA firms. I've spent about 15 years traveling the world with Robert Kiyosaki, doing financial education, particularly on the tax side, and in 6 continents and 30 plus countries all over the world. And the last 4 or 5 years have been building a network of CPA firms around the country. We have about 60 CPA firms in our network right now, and teaching people how to frankly make way more money and pay way less tax.
Wow. I've always known you've got the diplomas, but you've got the decades of experience. And I can tell the people listening that just reading Tax-Free Wealth, who would ever read a tax book multiple times? I've read that book multiple times. And
I wanted that myself, Tom.
So I want to get into your new book, which I was able to get an early copy. I read it, was blown away as usual, and in very Tom Wheelwright form. Most people are scared of the tax man and the tax laws. It's like it only comes up every April 15th, but tax is really an all-year thing. And one of my favorite quotes that you always say is that tax laws are incentives. I thought they were rules we had to follow. What's the deal with tax laws being incentives, and how does that fit with your book?
Yeah, so when I wrote Tax-Free Wealth, the whole idea was, look, there's one line in the tax law that says all income's taxable, unless we say it isn't. There's another line that says nothing's deductible unless we say it is. There's charts and tables tell you how much tax to pay, and then there's about 99.8% of the tax law that's really a roadmap to reducing taxes. It's really a guidebook to how to reduce your taxes. Taxes are incentives. They're incentives for a lot of different things. And that's why I wrote Tax-Free Wealth. The reason I wrote the Win-Win Wealth Strategy is because I wanted to show people that not only is the tax law a roadmap for reducing taxes, it's equally a roadmap for building wealth. So you mentioned that people are scared to death. They tend to be afraid of the IRS. They're afraid of taxes. It's too complicated. And and the idea is that, well, look, the government's going to win. And if the government wins, that means I'm going to lose, right? And that is typically, we think of this as a zero-sum game. The government wins, I lose. Or if I cheat, I win and the government loses, right? I mean, so that's kind of the common thought process around taxes. What I discovered is I've spent 40 years in this business, and then as I was writing Win-Win Wealth, is that, you don't have to have a win-lose. You can have a win-win. In other words, there are literally 7 investments where, yes, the government's going to win, but you can also win. So you can win both from a tax standpoint. The government will literally pay you to make these investments. And these are investments that you can use, and which you personally have used, to build massive amounts of wealth. So I just, I like the idea of looking at the government as your partner. The fact is the government is your partner, whether you like it or not. And, the question is, what kind of partner? And, either you're a silent partner or you're an active partner with the government. So Win-Win Wealth Strategy, 7 Investments Government Will Pay You to Make, is really a book on how you can make taxes a positive in your wealth building process.
That's fascinating. Two things I want to say that struck me when you talked is it's actually fascinating that you show how the government makes a profit by giving you a tax break, if I'm using the correct vernacular. And then one of your quotes was, one of your questions was, how do we get wealthier using the tax laws? And you should be able to build wealth that will never be taxed. And can that be done in a win-win way?
Yeah, exactly. There's this idea out there in the media right now and in certain circles of government that rich people don't pay tax, and they don't pay tax because they cheat. Even the IRS commissioner has said, look, I think we could raise $1 trillion from rich people if we just had more people. And I'm going, so first of all, that's personally offensive because all rich people have CPAs, which means CPAs are either complicit or stupid, and we're neither. Okay, so I'm going to tell you right now that to implicate the CPA profession like that, shame on the IRS commissioner for doing that. But that's not the way the tax law works, and he knows that. Frankly, he's just trying to get money for his budget. He knows that. The powers that be, most of them know that. I don't think they all know that. I can't honestly say that AOC knows that. I did send her a copy of my book, so maybe some staffer will read it and hand it to her. I doubt it, but I think people like Bernie Sanders do understand it. I'm pretty sure Bernie Sanders understands that this is how the tax law works. Now, he doesn't like that the tax law works this way, but he does understand that the tax law works this way. And if you look at this Build Back Better plan that they're still working, they're still trying to get through. They're still talking to Joe Manchin about it. All they're saying is look, we're going to change. We just want to change some of the incentives. The incentives have been heavily over on one side. Now we're going to push them somewhere else. But they're not saying no more incentives. Frankly, there are very few people who have ever suggested that. Ted Cruz would be one. Bernie Sanders would be another. And I mentioned this in the book that's probably the only place where they have a commonality, those two politicians, where they both believe that we shouldn't be using tax laws to engineer the economy, to develop social. But what Win-Win Wealth shows is that it's actually a good thing. Like you said, the government makes money. 6 out of the 7, the government does better than if they hadn't given the incentive. Financially, they do better. I mean, it's a form of leverage for them. If they can, if they spend $1, let's say they were to go build housing, which nobody in their right mind ever wants to live in government housing, right? But let's say the government were, and they spent $100,000 to build a house. All right, well, it would cost them $100,000. Whereas if they give in a tax incentive, it might only cost them $20,000 to get that house built. And so now they can build 5 houses for the same cost as building 1 house. And on top of that, eventually they're going to get paid back. So they're going to get a return on their investment. I mean, if you think about it, we play this game with the government called taxes. And the government makes the rules. The government enforces the rules. The government judges the rules. And the government can change the rules at any time. So they're in a pretty sweet position. And from an investment standpoint, they're in a really sweet position. There is, Tom, if you were, when you, as you go through the book, and I know you have, I do point out how the government makes money on this. And any investor would kill to be in the government's position. What we want to do is we want to put ourselves in a position where we can facilitate what the government wants done, as long as it's something we also want done. We can do good for society. And the reality is, the more good we do for society, the less tax we pay.
Absolutely. That's great investment advice. Always follow the successful people, follow the money. And so just right along with the government, those incentives have been very helpful to create housing, to get energy, oil and gas drilling, things like that, which brings us to you go through the seven categories. Let's touch on a couple of them. And a lot of people that listen to this are in the real estate world. So maybe we start there about some of the incentives for real estate and how it's a win-win.
Oh yeah. So real estate, I think the two biggest incentives in real estate are depreciation and debt. Those are the two biggest incentives in real estate. So depreciation is simply the deduction for wear and tear on the building, the contents, the landscaping, the improvements, so forth. And right now, of course, we got this bonus depreciation, which means if we do a cost segregation, now we can, deduct roughly 20 to 30% of the cost of a project the day we put it into service. I mean, that is unbelievable. That means that you could literally take $100,000 that you earned, you could invest that $100,000 in real estate and not pay tax on that $100,000 and have an investment that is producing income. I don't know where else you can do that, but the only reason you can do that is because of debt. And, we don't commonly think of the government incentivizing debt unless we start looking at the banks and we go, well, the government incentivizes banks for sure. I mean, they do a lot of things to help banks. Well, why do they do that? Well, because banks create money. Well, every time they lend, every time they put a mortgage on a house, they've created new money. They put new money into the marketplace. When we had all those bankruptcies in 2008, 9, and 10, all the money came out of the marketplace. That's why we haven't had inflation for 15 years, is because all that money came out and the government couldn't put it back fast enough. Okay. So the government wants you to borrow money. Now, high interest rates, they're saying, well, let's slow down the borrowing of money, but they do want you to borrow money. Remember that any money that you borrow is not taxable. So you go and you take your $100,000, you borrow $400,000 from the bank. The bank doesn't get the tax benefits of the $400,000. You get the tax benefits of their $400,000, and you get the tax benefits of your $100,000. So you basically multiply by 5, right? And you have 5 times the tax benefits that you would have if you didn't use debt. So, when people say, well, I'm afraid of debt, I don't like debt, I'm going, well, it's because you don't trust the asset. It's just because you don't have enough understanding. This is where I love what you're doing, Tom, in your financial education on real estate. You're helping people understand, real estate so well that they can trust that asset and that they can actually then feel comfortable going out and getting a bank loan to multiply the returns on their investment, multiply their tax benefits. Probably the third big tax benefit from real estate is that it never gets taxed in the end either. Okay. If you keep investing and you keep reinvesting your money, you literally will never pay tax. You can, anytime you need money, you just, go borrow, and you're not going to pay money on those borrowings. When you die, all the taxes go away. So it's a pretty sweet way to do it. We call that buy, borrow, die. I actually go through an example of that in Tax-Free Wealth. But, I actually list in the book 8 different tax benefits, 8 different benefits from real estate. But those would probably be the top 3, would be depreciation, debt, and no tax when you sell it.
And folks, that's why a lot of us use real estate to build our wealth. And did you hear the words Tom said? You'll never pay tax. He's not guaranteeing that, but there is a mechanism that the government has written the rules for to where you don't have to pay tax. It's not a loophole, and it's not something illegal. You're following the government's directives and doing what they want. With that, they get housing, and as Tom said, they get a profit. So taxes can be exciting.
I appreciate that comment there, Tom. And if I could, one of the things I'm finding with Win-Win Wealth is people read it is they're going, oh, you mean it's okay for me to reduce my taxes and build my wealth? The government actually wants me to build my wealth and reduce my taxes. And while they may not say that as politicians, that is exactly what they're doing. So, don't listen to their mouths, right? Because they talk out of both sides of them, right? Typically.
Right.
But
Always.
if you look at what they're actually doing, I mean, right now, in addition to real estate, you've got renewable energy. Well, what if you put renewable energy on your real estate? Now you actually got the benefits of energy and real estate. On top of that, if you're a real estate investor and this is what you do, you get all the benefits of the business owner. And you're creating jobs, and you're creating housing, and you're creating commercial buildings or industrial or whatever. And this is something the government wants done. Ronald Reagan started this in 1981. He and his economic advisors, including Dr. Art Laffer, who actually has endorsed win-win wealth strategy, they came up with this idea that, look, if we incentivize, if we reduce the drag on real estate by reducing the taxes on real estate, then we're going to get more real estate development, which spurs every aspect of the economy.
That's right. If you listen to this, folks, the government wants you to do this stuff. They wouldn't write the rules if you didn't, and they're making a return on their investment. So it's not a one-way thing. It's not like you're pulling something over on them. And something Tom said before was about education and being afraid of debt. Always your education is your risk hedge. So you get comfortable. Debt is your friend, and you'll understand that. Once you use debt, you use the tax laws. It is a great way to pay as low a tax as possible, and you're helping the government, you're helping yourself, you're helping your family. Everybody wins, hence a win-win strategy. Tom, in the time we have left, what else we talked? You mentioned energy. There's other ways. There's business, agriculture, insurance. Anything you'd like to touch on for folks that maybe they wouldn't have thought of, but they can certainly read when they read your book.
Yeah, I think one of the goals of the win-win wealth strategy is to help people understand really how taxes and finance work. Okay, in real life. Okay, not the government people who've never been in real estate or finance, but how it actually works. And understand that basically what the government has said is, if you spend money, any money you make, if you spend it or you save it, you're taxed on it. If you invest it, you're not taxed on it. So basically, right now we got this huge inflation, right? I mean, we had literally last month over 15% inflation in annualized in the month of June. So wow. You're going, oh my heavens, I mean, you're like, sucking air, right? At that point. Okay, so what do you do about that? Well, if you save money, you're losing 15% on your money every year. If you invest your money, you can stay ahead of inflation. I mean, inflation right now, take real estate, for example, inflation is higher than the cost of debt, than interest rates. We never have that. We almost, for the last 15 years, inflation has been lower than the cost of debt. Now we have inflation higher than the cost of debt, which makes real estate even more attractive in my mind, because it means that I can use debt and I can leverage that debt. My rents are going to go up. My prices are going to go up. Everything's going to go up. My debt's going to stay the same. In fact, if anything, it's going to go down. Okay. So I think that's a pretty amazing fact. And we just need to remember that saving doesn't help a whole lot. Investing does. And that's what the government wants. They want you to invest your money. They want you to put your money back into your business, back into your real estate, back into energy, back into your farm, back into your ranch. That's where they want the money. They want you to make sure you're safe and secure. So they incentivize insurance and retirement plans. That's for safety and security. They want to make sure you're safe and secure. And, when you look at all of these combinations, you go, wow, there's something in there for every single person. There is something for every single person. I don't know if you noticed, Tom, but in the very first chapter, I ran a little example. I love running numbers. I'm a CPA. And I ran some numbers and they surprised me. It turns out that if you start a business out of your home, the government, the reduction in your taxes from your job is greater than the cost of starting the business. So literally, the government will pay you to start a business because you're taking items that you have expenses, you're paying those expenses anyway. You're paying for your home, your car, your internet, your maintenance. You're paying for all these things in your home office. You're already paying those expenses. Now they're deductible, and the deductions are so great, they literally will pay for the cost of starting the business, or can pay for the cost of starting a business. So, where it's so easy to start a business and people are thinking, how do I get more money because I need to deal with inflation? Okay, the fastest way to put money in your pocket is to reduce your taxes. The second fastest way is to invest or start a business. So I love what you're doing, Tom. Thank you so much. Thanks for talking about the win-win wealth strategy. I know you're a big, you've just been a big advocate of reducing taxes, building wealth, and doing things that are good for society. They're good for everybody.
Yeah, reduce your taxes. That's money in your pocket, and we're all to make the world a better place, and that's what helps do that. And Tom, what you have done with your 2 books, what you're doing now with the second book is fantastic. I encourage everybody to read this. Tom, please tell us the title of the book, where they can get it, and where they could get a hold of you if need be.
Well, here you go. So this is the book, The Win-Win Wealth Strategy, 7 Investments the Government Will Pay You to Make. And forward by our friend, yours and mine, Robert Kiyosaki. It's actually a brilliant forward. Read the forward first. It's just really it's the best forward I've ever read in any book. It is just such a brilliant forward. I would go to Amazon.com. While we were talking, my son-in-law just texted me and said, we're number 4 on Amazon Finance right now. So let's get to number 1. Let's push it up there. We'd love to get to not just Amazon, Wall Street Journal, New York Times. We need to get this message out because this is a message the world needs to hear. I would just always encourage entrepreneurs and investors because entrepreneurs are really the lifeblood of the world. They're the reason we can get our air conditioning fixed. They're the reason that we had Amazon deliver during the pandemic. They're the reason that we have electric cars. They're the reason that we have an iPhone. So don't forget that it's all about the entrepreneurs. It's all about the investors. We do good in the world, and we need to keep doing it. Make more money, pay less tax.
Well said. I couldn't close even better. Folks, go out and get Tom's book, The Win-Win Wealth Strategy. I can tell you from personal experience, he knows what he's talking about, and you won't regret reading that book. Read it fast. Thank you, Tom. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Tom.